I love indie games. There's hundreds of them out there, and they all offer a unique experience that can't be offered anywhere else. But I'm betting you love indie games too if you're watching this video. So today, I want to take a look at 6 indie games that you really need to play. With these games ranging from fast-paced platformer fun to what I can only describe as an experience. So, let's jump right into it. Developed by Heart Machine, Solar Ash is an open world platformer that feels amazing to play. In Solar Ash, you play as Ray, a Void Runner that is desperately doing everything she can to activate the Star Seed, a device that she believes will help her save her planet from being swallowed up by a black hole called the Ultra Void. Now, with a badass premise like that, surely the gameplay backs it up, right? Well, fuck yeah, it does. The main gameplay loop of Solar Ash is fairly simple. You enter a new area, clear anomalies that aggravate the area's boss, fight the boss in a Shadow of Colossus type sequence, increase power to the Star Seed, then move on to the next area. While that gameplay loop can sound pretty annoying to do, Solar Ash has more than enough variety in its challenges and landscapes that I honestly never felt bored or annoyed with any of the challenges that the game threw at me. And speaking of challenges, this game loves to do that. Whether it be through clever use of chain together attacks, or forcing the player to learn an area's layout so that they can complete challenges better. This game is almost always asking the player to push themselves, and it's honestly something I enjoy, as it always feels like you're progressing in some way while playing. And to be honest, my only look up Solar Ash is that none of people know about it. I mean, sure, you can find reviews and playthroughs of this game online, but you'll hardly find anyone talking about and piecing together the game's story and its underlying themes in any way similar to Heart Machine's other game, Hyper Light Drifter. And that's kinda disheartening, as this game boasts a fantastic story that only gets better after you do a second run of the game. Now, normally I'm not someone that likes to go back and replay through an entire game, just so certain story beats make more sense, but Solar Ash is the exception, as on a second playthrough, dialogue from characters like Echo hit a lot harder if you have a complete understanding of the game. But if this cel-shaded ethereal-like experience isn't something you enjoy, how about something more hardcore? Paperhead is a fast-paced FPS game that I can only really describe as Ultra Kill if it was scarier. I'm not joking, by the way, and listen, I know I'm kind of a pussy when it comes to horror games, but there were times in this game where even though I had a gun in my hand, I was still terrified of what monster looked around the corner. Paperhead's horror factor though is really cranked up in the first 2 levels, as at the start, the game kind of feels similar to other games like Poppy Playtime, in the sense that you're just platforming and solving puzzles. But damn, once you finally get into the combat, damn is it fun! Almost every engagement in Paperhead is just begging the player to be as creative as possible in their kills, even going so far as to add a style meter for good measure. And luckily, this game does not disappoint. With tight movement controls and attacks, Paperhead feels absolutely amazing to play, allowing players that are used to playing games like Ultra Kill and Doom Eternal to feel right at home. My only real gripe with this game though has to be the puzzles. Listen, I'm all for putting puzzles into fast-paced shooters, but it's honestly hard at times to figure out what Paperhead wants. As the first few minutes of the game are spent doing nothing but puzzles and walking around, only to switch into fast-paced combat, only to switch again into more puzzles and walking around. Which in my opinion creates a pretty noticeable pacing issue, as once the combat starts, I kinda just don't want it to end, so it becomes kinda frustrating at times when you go from the combat back to puzzle solving. But in all fairness, I am terrible at puzzles. Hell, I had half of my chat yelling at me while I was playing A Man of the Adventurer because I couldn't figure things out. So maybe this gripe is more of a skill issue, I'm not quite sure, but if you plan on giving Paperhead a try after this video, let me know in the comments how slow I am. But hey, on the plus side, you can have custom inspiration in this game. Developed by Giant Squid, the Pathless is an open world game that I can only really describe as breathtaking. In the Pathless, he plays the Hunter, working to cure cursed gods and take down the Godslayer, a ruthless tyrant that has plunged the island you traverse into ruin. And I mean ruin. Like, there is not a single person on this island that is alive, which really paints the island you're on as kind of depressing, as everywhere you go, there's bodies and what remains of destroyed buildings and architecture. But that, combined with this game's lack of music, truly allows this game to immerse you in its world. But beside all that, the gameplay in Pathless is pretty unique. The main gameplay loop consists of you collecting medals in order to activate obelisks. Once all the obelisks in an area have been activated, they weaken the area's cursed god, allowing you to chase them down in a fantastic chase sequence that eventually leads into a boss fight after enough hits. But once the cursed god is taken down and cured, the area you've been locked in gets shrouded in light, brightening up the area and allowing you to progress to the next section. While this gameplay loop did feel kinda tedious once I got around to the 3rd area, the traversal options in this game were honestly enough to keep me satisfied. With the main way you get around the map is by timing your arrows to hit floating eyes scattered everywhere, with each eye you hit filling up your stamina bar, meaning in order to get around, you need to time your shots one after the other so your stamina is almost never empty. But that isn't all you're limited to, as you can also glide with the help of your pet eagle. Sadly though, this is where my gripe with Pathless comes in. as these two methods of getting around the map are the only way you're able to get anywhere, as the game doesn't have a way to fast travel. Meaning in order to get around, you really have to get around. Which I mean isn't all that bad, as it allows you to take in the game's scenery and be immersed into its world, but damn, my finger kinda hurt after a while. But despite this, the Pathless is still a fantastic experience that I can wholeheartedly recommend. Oh, and yes, you can pet the eagle. Yep, I'm covering another open world game. Damn, I play a lot of these. But Wavetale is an open world game developed by Thunderful. In it, you play as Sigrid, a young girl living peacefully on an island with her grandmother until a wave of gloom overtakes the island. After being saved by a shadowy figure though, Sigrid sets out with her grandma to help the locals overcome the gloom and take back their homes. Now despite the game being pretty linear for an open world game, the main gameplay loop of Wavetale is pretty simple. You collect energy, help the locals out, encounter a giant serpent, and return home to open up the next area. Nah, but seriously, Wavetale is a very relaxing game to play, as your main mode of getting around the world is running on water, which when combined with the game's soundtrack, creates an experience that I couldn't help but vibe out to. Unfortunately though, there isn't a whole lot I can say about Wavetale besides game good without getting into spoiler territory. So the best way I can put it is that if what you've seen so far has piqued your interest at all, then it's definitely worth checking out Wavetale. Developed by Gabriel Gonzalez and Curiomatic, Rollin Rascal is a fast-paced platforming game that is incredible. With big open levels that have a clear way to navigate and progress through them, Rollin Rascal allows the player to be as creative as they want with how they play the game. Want to take the main route and go through their level that way? Go for it. Want to push the game to its limits and see how far it'll take you? By all means, do it. Now despite the game only having 2 levels right now since it's still in development, there's still plenty to do as the game also has an online mode where you can race against other players on maps designed for speed. Speaking of online, the developers also host competitions where you can actually get the chance to race the devs. Although I'm not sure how often these happen, so you have to keep an eye on the official Discord and Blue Sky for that. But Rollin Rascal is a game that I can confidently say I have no gripes with. Sure, the game has its fair shares of bugs and glitches, but since the game is still in active development, I can honestly overlook these, as the devs are constantly popping out new online content and patches almost every week. But if any of the devs are watching this, I just have one question. Can you guys give Cutie a frog skin? V.A Proxy isn't a game, it's an experience. Developed by Paperhead, V.A Proxy is an open world hack and slash Souls-like game that, I'll be completely honest, is best played if you go into it blind. Which is why I'm putting a spoiler warning here to start, cause damn, I can't talk about this game without covering a few spoilers. So if you care about that type of thing, skip to the time code on screen or use the chapters provided. But the main story of V.A Proxy centers around, quote, 3 machines that seek freedom as they fall deeper into the guts of this world. Now, if that didn't already raise a few questions about this game, trust me, you're not getting any answers. Right from the start of V.A Proxy, and I mean right from the start, you're already questioning what this game has to offer, since even though you have 4 save files open to you, one of them is curiously marked in red with the playtime over 19 hours. Although if you try and select this file, you're met with a screen asking you for a password, but since you don't have one, you're forced to pick one of the other save files instead. But after picking a file, you get dialogue between 2 strangers, talking about you, bringing up how they can't seem to get the weapon you have pried from your hands, and that your sockets have been welded shut. But after that, you emerge from a pod to a room full of other pods, and you missing an arm. With no other way to go but down, you descend the vast tunnels until you land in what I can only assume to be a junkyard. After being woken up by V6, the actual gameplay of V.A Proxy begins, as you now have an entire open world full of secrets to traverse. Now, similarly to the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, a good note to keep in mind is that if you can see it, chances are you can get to it, as you can go just about everywhere in this game. But remember earlier when I mentioned how this game just constantly raises questions? Yeah, well, the world doesn't do a great job of providing any answers. Everywhere you look in V.A Proxy, you're met with more questions. Where are all the people? Is this place just dominated by robots? What happened to this giant robot? Why did it die holding up these buildings? And what's with this energy dome? What's it for? Is it to keep us in or to keep something out? Oh. Do you see what I mean though? This world is just amazing and hides so many secrets from the player that you can't help but start asking questions about everything. But that's enough yapping about the world, let's talk about the gameplay. The gameplay of V.A Proxy is pretty good, as the character you control is very responsive and snappy, with both the combat and movement feeling really good, as everything attacks really quickly, allowing the combat of V.A Proxy to be more fast-paced and exciting. But my only gripe with V.A Proxy though, isn't even a gripe with the game, and more so my computer, as my computer struggled to play this game. As even though I had the game set to 60 FPS, my PC could barely muster, well, whatever frame rate this is. But that's all I can really say about V.A Proxy. It's a fantastic game that has my complete attention, and one that I recommend you check out for yourself, as there's no way this video is doing the game a proper service. But there you go, 6 underrated indie games you need to check out. I'll be keeping my eyes on Rollin Rascal and V.A Proxy for the full release, so keep an eye out on a video covering those games in the future. But if there's any indie games you think I should check out, feel free to suggest them down in the comments. But I hope you subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!